All right, so I drove up to Georgia, hanging out with family and that kind of stuff, and I go into the family room. My dad's in there watching TV, but not really watching TV. You know your parents sometimes have the TV on, but they're working on something. I'm like, oh, it's just on. So I go in there, and something odd happened. He gets up, gives me a hug, but that's not what was odd. He gives me hugs all the time, right? His hugs are a little rigid, but it's okay. It's all right. So he gives me a hug, and then he does something that he's never done before. He tosses me the remote, and I catch that remote. And in that moment, I had the power in my hand. And I said, Dad, well, aren't you watching TV? He's like, no, it's just on. You can watch whatever you want to. And I said, all right, I'm 28 years old. It's about time. I didn't say that. I thought that. So I sat down, plopped on the couch, didn't put my feet on anything. I just turned the TV on, said, all right, cool. This is what we're going to watch. And I put it on Nat Geo because I like National Geographic. I really love it. And there was this show that was coming on. It basically was about deserts, right? And so it's showing these different desert creatures in North America and just the different deserts. And I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by nature. If you didn't know that about me, I love nature. I love those things. I love going exploring. So I'm watching this show, and usually my dad is the kind of person he's listening to stuff, but he's working. And all of a sudden, he starts commenting on what's going on. And I know he's paying attention because, like me, when I hear a fact that's really strange or I hear about an animal that's like, I didn't know that existed, I pull my phone out, and I'm Googling it. But this man pulls his laptop out, and he's typing and looking these things up. So all of a sudden, he's commenting, did you know this right here? And I'm just like, look at you getting into National Geographic and stuff. But we're looking at these different desert creatures, and it really got me thinking about just the complexity that it comes to when it comes to desert creatures. I mean, there are deserts all around the world, different types of deserts, but these animals don't just live in the desert. Like, they're thriving, they're surviving. They are literally making a way, paving a way in the desert. And so I have a question for you all. What comes to mind, I guess that was the question. I wanted another question, but how would you describe a desert? Or what comes to mind when you think about a desert? Like, what are some of the things that come to your mind? Yes, sir. Someone said hot. Okay. Penguins. You said what? No water. Sand. So bland, you said it. Sand. What else? What else comes to mind? Someone said snow. Okay. Cacti. Figs? Big. Okay, it's like figs. Maybe your desert. Yes. Lizards. One more. Tumbleweeds. Yeah. You put me on the spot right there. You're like, you know what I'm talking about? No. But you did this. And I was like, I know what it is. So a lot of things come to mind when we think of deserts, right? You all said sand. Someone said hot. Someone said tumbleweeds. Someone said cacti. It's okay. A lot of things come to mind. Someone said lizards. A lot of things come to mind when you think of a desert. Anybody ever seen a desert? Like, with their own eyes, seen a desert? What desert have you seen? Yes. That's awesome. Well, that's a real desert right there. So there are a few deserts I want to show you all. I've been to a few deserts around the world, and they're probably what you think about when you see a desert. You're like, all right, it's probably a lot of sand there. So there's sand. This is actually us in Israel. No, it's not up yet. There it is. So I'm sitting on this little ledge, and I'm not sitting on a ledge that I'm going to die off of. It's like a little cliff, and then there's a drop-off right there. But I'm sitting in Israel and just looking out at the desert. And as you can see, there are lots of rocks here, and there's sand dunes, and it just kind of just cascades. It goes off as far as the eye can see. So that was in Israel. Really cool, not cool desert. It was hot, but it was a really interesting desert. Cool is a terrible word choice for that one. Here's another desert I've been to before. So this was my first time going out of the country. This is going to Peru. And we were in Lima, Peru. I think we were in Lima. Yeah, we're in Lima, Peru. And if you can see, this is sand, right? Can anybody tell what that is up there behind us? Water. That's the ocean. Do you know that there are deserts that are adjacent to oceans? Now, here's the weird thing about it. In this area right here, it hasn't rained in recorded history. Exactly. It's weird. It's weird. Right there, literally, I mean, so where I was sitting before was a little cliff. This was a massive cliff face, and you could tell it's not in the U.S. because there's no safety fence. They're like, look, if you fall off and you survive, you were meant to survive. If you don't, oh well. But this is right next to water. Now, you wouldn't think of a desert as being a place right next to water because you think desert, no water, and yet it's right there. Here's another desert. So this desert, let's see what we have next. This desert is actually in China. This one's really cool, literally, because there's ice right there. Did you know some deserts, someone said cold, I believe, or someone said snow. There are some deserts that actually have snow. They're very, very, yes, sir. That's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. I don't have that question, but if I did have that question, you would win the gold star. But this desert right here in China has the sand, typical sand, as well as it has the ice. It's just not what you would think. Now I'm going to show you a desert that might blow some of y'all's minds. And this desert's, I can't say cool. This desert's amazing. Say that. Desert's amazing. Anybody know where this is? It's in, it's Iceland. Iceland. Hawaii was a good choice. This is Iceland. The sand is black. Now, if you thought of desert, would you think black sand? I wouldn't. Maybe you were probably way smarter than me. I wouldn't have thought black sand. I might think red sand. I might think brown. I might think of all these different colors, but I would never think the soil is black. But this desert has black sand. Like it makes me realize something. You know, the deserts around the world are so different. There's also your ice deserts, of course, but the deserts around the world are so different. They're so various, and it makes me realize, you know, sometimes we might have the wrong understanding of what a desert is. We think a desert is hot. There's cacti there. There are lizards there. There are sidewinder snakes there. But there's more to a desert than that. In fact, I want you all to look what a desert is. It's just a desolate or forbidding area. Now, here's a question for you all. I asked has anybody ever been to a desert before? Has anybody ever been in a desert before? And when I say been in a desert, not as in you're going there, but as in circumstances in your life brought you to that place. As in things going on in your life all of a sudden make it really hard. Make you feel like you're by yourself. Make you feel like, you know what, I don't know if I can survive. I don't know if I can thrive, but I don't think I can really survive here. Like, life is just impossible. Because tonight, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Psalm 42. So if you have your Bible, go ahead and turn to Psalm 42. We're going to talk about a man who experienced a desert. If you're a Christian, if you've been around Christians long enough, you'll hear some people say sometimes, oh, I'm going through a desert. I'm going through a trial. It's a desert experience. And what it means is, look, life is really hard right now. It's really hard for me. And I'm just barely making it through. But let's look at how this person responds, because they didn't react, responds to the desert that God allowed them to be in. You ready? Psalm 42, verse 1. It's got it right there. As a deer pants for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? I love this verse because it's one of my memory verses. It actually, with my other guys, it's from a different translation. But it's such a simple verse, and it talks about, you know, hey, sometimes animals get really thirsty when they've been running around for a long time. And they're so thirsty that they start panting. Anybody have a dog in here? Anybody have a dog? Yeah? What do they do when they get thirsty? They start panting, right? They start panting. Anybody go to camp with us ever before? Yeah. Had to drink a lot of water, didn't you? Some of y'all didn't drink water. You started cramping and stuff. You learned your lesson. But this passage is so cool because it simply says, you know what? Hey, I'm as thirsty for your presence, God, as a deer is in the desert for water. That's what it feels like. God, I feel like I'm so isolated from you. I feel like I'm so far away from you that, God, I am like a deer in a hot, because, by the way, these guys didn't have ice deserts. It was a hot desert. I feel like I'm a deer in a hot desert just trying to find a little bit of water to make it through today. I'm going to go back for a second really quick. He says, my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? Now, if you know the Old Testament, you know this is before Jesus comes. So back in this time, people would actually go to the temple. They would go and basically praise God. They would go and worship God. But it wasn't in their mindset to say, you know what, God's going to come to me. So this person's in a place where they're, look, God, I feel like you're so far away. I feel like I can't get near you. I feel like I can't get to the temple. And God, I just need you. I need something. And he says, my tears have been my food day and night, while they say to me all the day long, where is your God? So how do we know that this person is going through a hard situation? Because they're crying themselves to sleep. Because the only comfort they have is to cry. Now, nobody's going to admit to this in here, honestly, but have you ever been in such a hard situation? Such a hard situation that all you could do is cry. You couldn't reach out to people. You couldn't voice what was going on, but all you could do, all your body could do in response was cry, because that's how broken you are. Maybe because that's how lonesome you were. Maybe that's how desperate you were. That's where this person is. They're saying, look, God, all I've got is my tears. And it doesn't help me that everybody around me is saying, where's your God? Does your God even care about you? Is your God even real? Which tells you what? That person was not surrounded with believers. They're not surrounded by believers. Y'all, it's really hard to be a Christ follower. It's really hard to follow God when the people around you don't care anything about him. It's easy to be a Christian at camp. It's easy to be a Christian in here. It's easy to be like, yeah, Jesus is awesome. But then when you get on campus, a public school campus, and you don't have any of your Christian friends, it's really easy to say, man, what's going on right now? It's really easy to turn your back on him. But that's not what he's saying. This person isn't saying, I turn my back on you, God. This person is saying, God, nobody around here cares about you. In fact, they're mocking me. They're making fun of me because of the fact that I'm putting my hope in you, and I don't see any hope right now. What comes of it, though? These things I remember as I pour out my soul, how it would go with the throng and lead them in procession to the house of God with glad shouts and songs of praise. A multitude kept keeping festival. Who are the people? This is a trick question. It's not a trick question. Hopefully you'll get it because we talked about it. Leviticus, that's a hint. Who leads the people into God's presence? It starts with the P. The priests. The prophets were the ones who gave the word, but the priests were the ones who would lead the procession. So if this person says, look, I used to do this. I used to lead the multitudes. I used to lead the people. Is this person probably a priest? Yes or no? Yeah, probably so, right? If you're leading the procession, there's a breakdown of how it used to go. So you have your Levites, you have the people who are basically playing the different instruments. You have most Levites are priests, and you have more priests right here. So the priests were the ones who basically brought the Ark of the Covenant. The priests were the ones who led the people and said, hey, look, let me show you to God. Let me help you prepare your hearts for worship. Let me direct you to Yahweh, our God. And this person is saying, I used to be that person. I used to lead the procession. I used to be in the festival. I was a worship leader. Let's go to the next verse. Go ahead and go to the next verse. But this person says, but I'm not there anymore. God, I remember the good times. I remember the great times. I remember being at camp, and God, the music was so awesome that the ground was shaking. God, people were sweating. Nobody had deodorant. I didn't even care because, God, you were moving in that place. God, it was amazing. It was the most amazing experience ever. God, you know what? Why can't I be that close to you? I remember that one time, God, because we all have that one time, God, where we felt like we were closer to God than we'll ever get in our life. When we wanted to live in that moment forever and say, I will hold on to this for the rest of my life because my God is worth it. We all have that moment, right? That's what this person is saying. In verse 5 and 6 it says, why are you cast down, O my soul? Why are you in turmoil within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation and my God. And this person's saying, you know what? Why am I freaking out? Why am I worried? You know what? Look, I know what it's like to worship God. I know what it's like to lead people to worshiping God. I should be okay. I should be great. In fact, here's why I should be great. Which is the next verse, or a continued verse of 6. My soul is cast down within me, therefore I remember you from the land of Jordan and Hermon from Mount Mizar. It's like, you know what, God? I remember those times you came through. I remember those times when something was going on that I couldn't rescue myself from, and you rescued me. I remember the times, God, that you redeemed me when nobody else would. God, I remember those times. I remember those situations. God, I remember that you are my God, that you've been faithful to me. And so you'll be faithful again. And then this is a response. It says, deep calls to deep at the roar of your waterfalls, at all the breakers, your waves have gone over me. It's like, here's the thing, God. There's been some bad stuff that's happened in my life, but for some reason, you protected me. For some reason, you provided for me. For some reason, God, you cared for me. God, the storms of life could have easily crushed me, and yet, God, you have come through. Wow, God, not only did I lead people to you, not only did I get to praise you and get close to you, but God, you came through. God, you saved me. God, you rescued me. God, you redeemed me. Now, after saying all that, you would think, okay, the person's good to go. The person's free. The person's great, right? Well, let's see what they say next. By day, the Lord commands his steadfast love, and at night his song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. It says, you know what, God? I worshiped you. You saved me. You've protected me. Not only that, but God, you've actually put your love nearby. Throughout the day, when I'm being chastised, when I'm being attacked by people, when the world is coming at me, when I'm in a foreign land, when, God, things are hard, when my parents are getting a divorce, when, God, my siblings are going through certain things, when, God, my life is just a wreck, God, your love is nearby. In fact, not only is your love nearby during the day, but at night, God, when I'm sitting down and I'm trying to process everything that's been going on, God, I'm trying to figure out why my life is the way it is. God, your melodies calm my soul. Your spirit soothes me. What a mighty God we serve. But just because our God is mighty doesn't mean that we're removed from situations, right? If we're being honest. Acts 14:22, I quote it all the time, says we must endure great trials to inherit the kingdom of God. It actually says strengthen our disciples first. But we're going to go through stuff. Stuff's going to happen in our lives. says, as with a deadly wound in my bones, my adversaries taunt me, while they say to me all the day long, where is your God? So God, even though you've done all these great things, even though you've been amazing, even though you've been majestic, even though your love has been poured out on me, even though you sing to me, you serenade me, God, you take care of me, that has not removed me from the situation that I'm in. That has not made my life any easier. That has not made my life any better. God, I'm still going through. I'm still going through. But the response is amazing. I wish I had this person's faith. I wish I had this person's thought process. Because like I said earlier, it's very easy for me to get distracted, get frustrated, get agitated, and want to remove myself. That's what I do. When I get agitated, and it's funny because I remove myself either way. Like if I'm in a good mood, I say, okay, cool, I'm going to hang out over here. But if I'm in a bad mood, if I'm irked, I step back and say, you know what? This isn't worth my time. This isn't worth my energy. None of it's worth it. God, just take me now. It's just me being honest. That's what I do. I step back. This person said, you know what? In the midst of this trial, in the midst of this hard time, when nothing is going right, this is what you say. Why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you in turmoil with me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation and my God. Why am I freaking out? Why am I so worried? Why am I so anxious? You know what? Look, my hope is in God, and I'm going to praise him again. I'm going to join the procession of the believers, and I'm going to praise him again. I'm going to be beside him. Whether my life gets better now or I die today, then I get to spend eternity with him. No matter what happens, God, you are my salvation, and that's enough for me. Y'all are going to love this next question. Or it's a statement, actually. It's a statement. You can't have that response if you haven't had that experience. So many of us go through desert experiences. Many of us have had parents who maybe have been on welfare, or parents who got divorced, or siblings who have died, or parents who maybe, I don't know, aren't exactly what you would want as a parent. Parents who say, no, you can't go to church. Parents who maybe get physical because they get agitated. We have friends who maybe are friends but bully us. We have administrators who treat us in a way that is subpar. We have a life that comes after us, life that attacks us. And yet in the midst of that experience, in the midst of that situation, how do you respond? Do you respond with, well, I'm done with life. I don't care anymore. It's not worth my time. That's how Akil would want to respond. That's how the flesh of Akil wants to respond, because I'm very good at getting out of things. I'm very good at just saying, you know what, it's not worth my time. It never has been. God, just let me live my life and leave these people alone. Or do we respond with, you know what, God, I remember the time that I was so close to you that I could just give up on life. I could say, you know what, God, I'm good. Take me now. It can't get any better. This experience, God, you can't top this experience. This worship experience is on a whole nother level. God, you just did your best. I'm good. Take me to heaven now. And God says, my best? Keep on living. Many of us have had experiences where we said, God, I can't do this. I can't fix this. God, I need help. I need you to help me. And God says, done. Got it. God's come in and saved us. And let's be honest, some of us have never had that experience. Some of us have never had the experience where we saw the God of all creation come in and stoop down and say, you know what, I love you so much that I'm going to set you free. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to cherish you. I'm going to show you why you're a unique, set-apart, handmade creation. Some of us have never had that experience because some of us have never experienced the living God. Some of us have never experienced who he is. We've heard sermons. We've heard things about him. We said, oh, that's awesome. We've sang songs. We've pretended to worship God, but we've never actually drawn near to him and said, God, wash me, cleanse me, because right now I don't want to be in anyone's presence. God, I am not enough. But God, fix me because you are. God, make me whole, make me new because you are. God, without you, I have nothing. So you can't respond to situations well until your soul is made well, until your being is made whole, until your being is made new, until God comes in and cataclysmically changes every facet of who you are. Bless you. So we talked about the desert creatures and how they thrive, right? They're not just surviving. They have adapted to that desert climate, and they are living well. But are you? Am I? Are you surviving your life right now? Or are you thriving? Are you making it today? Are you going to make it tomorrow? Are you just going to get by? Is there one situation that if it were to take place in your life, it would cripple you? You couldn't go on anymore? If there was one person who said, I can't be friends with you anymore, would you just, oh my gosh, die? What is it in your life that maybe is keeping you from saying, you know what, I can thrive. I can walk in freedom. I can walk in liberty. I can walk in love. Because whatever that is in your life, that is your idol. That is what is holding you back from thriving, from living. See, people ask me all the time, like, hey, how you doing? I'll say glorious, or I'll say living the dream. And it's funny when people ask me, why do you say living the dream? And I'm just kind of like, easy. So I get to talk about the God that I serve and how no matter how bad or good my life might be, no matter what it looks like, because life is all over the place, y'all, I'm okay. Example, how many of y'all went and did Love Loud projects? Like 8 of you, maybe, that are in here? Okay. So high school was challenged to go and talk to people, share your story, ask their story, go share a Bible story. That's great. I had the idea of going to a mechanic shop, going to where I get my oil changed. So going where I get my oil changed, and I was going to talk to people online because it's like a 2-hour wait, and I figured people already talk to me all the time, even if I have my headphones in. So why not just sit there and be like, hey, how are you today? It's good to see you. Let me hear your story. That's not what happened. I planned on doing it in Georgia. On the way to Georgia, my car broke down on the side of the highway. 80 miles from the place that was supposed to fix the part because they had done it before. Yay. So I called this place. I was like, hey, ring, ring. How you doing? Thank you so much. Going to pick me up? Awesome, great. They get there within 25 minutes. Said driver picks up. We start talking, right? Country guy. I'm from Georgia. He's from Georgia. It was great. It was awesome. We're talking about trucks. We're talking about mudding. A different side of me came out, y'all. It was awesome. We've talked about all these different things, and he heard me mention how I work with students. And I guess it was early in the conversation because I mentioned how the vehicle had broken down before because of a part that the same company had fixed, but it's okay. A part the same company had fixed, and I was like, I was with students, but it's all good. And he said, hey, you talked about working with students. What do you do? Are you a teacher or something? Oh, no, sir. I'm a pastor. I'm one of the pastors at a church. Really? Yeah. What does that look like? Well, blah, blah, blah. I didn't say blah, 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 but I did say some things. And it was cool because I got to share how you all have impacted me, how this community has changed my understanding of who God is. It's helped my theology of who God is. To the point where this man was thanking me for what I do. It's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm showing up, man. I'm like, all right, God, do something. Do something, God, because I can't do it. I'm not enough. So that was one person, right? On the way back, I sit down. I don't have my laptop with me. Why? Because I forgot it. Sit down. Lady comes sits next to me. No idea why, but she sits next to me. And she starts talking, which is fine. She's talking about how I live in Las Vegas. It's like, oh, really? That's awesome. What part of Las Vegas? Across the street from where the shooting was. Oh, okay. This lady was on a spiritual journey. She evidently had her husband know Jesus. They said, yeah, we usually go out and walk every single night, but that night something told me not to go outside. I said, okay. And then there was a shooting. Okay. Once again, she asked, hey, so what are you flying home for? What are you doing? Who are you? What's your life story? Jesus is all I got. It's who he is. It's who I want to be. I want to follow him. I want to serve him. See, y'all, she got to hear about the things that kind of went wrong and the things that kind of went right, but she got to hear about who my God is and how he's been consistent through all things in life. And people, as they get to hear the experiences of Christ followers, should realize that Christians aren't just going through life surviving, but Christians are thriving even in the hardest situations. So the question remains, are you thriving or are you surviving? And then we have another one. Do you know what it's like to thrive in the desert? If you're a Christian, hopefully you do. Hopefully you know what it's like to say, you know what, I've been through some serious things in life, and my God has saved me. Because that's where you say, you know what, I've been able to see God's faithfulness. Because we serve a faithful God. We serve a righteous God. We serve a perfect God. But for those of you who maybe you don't know who God is, maybe you are just surviving in this life, you probably don't know what it's like to thrive. Even in the best days, even in the best, most amazing experiences of days, you probably don't know what it's like to say, look, my life, my spirit, everything is great. I feel complete. I feel satisfied, because in the back of your mind you're thinking, what if? What if this happens? I'd be ruined. What if you acknowledge who God is and who God says you are? You say, you know what, God, look, I can't fix my life. I can't do it on my own. I'm not enough. I acknowledge who you called me to be. I acknowledge who you created me to be. I acknowledge the fact that, look, God, my sin, my choice to rebel against you, my choice to try to be God in my life is what separates me from you. But I also acknowledge the fact that for some reason, 2,000 plus years ago, you chose to come down to the earth to redeem me. Why? Because you love me. Because you made the choice before I was created to set me free, to redeem me. So God, because you did that, you didn't just lay your life down on a cross, but you picked it back up 3 days later and you said, hey, follow me. Believe in who I am. Trust in who I am. And I will lead you to the promised land. I will lead you to glory. You won't face death anymore. Because of that, God, I'm going to try putting my faith in you. Because I've experienced those who know you, who serve you, and there's something different about them. They're not just surviving in this life. They're not just making it day by day. They're thriving in the midst of persecution. They're thriving in the midst of a crazy, chaotic life because their God is faithful. So I ask you again, do you know what it's like to thrive in a desert? And if you don't know what it's like to thrive in a desert, I pray that tonight you'll make a choice that changes your perspective forever. Come talk to Mike. Come talk to me. Come talk to Miss Kimberly. Come talk to Jay. Come talk to Mr. Tony. Come talk to any of us. Not while they're on the stage, but come talk to us, and we will share the most incredible story of how God redeemed our souls. Can't convert you, but we can share about how God has met us where we are, how he's met us in our desert experience and said, look, I will rescue you. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to take us out of the desert, but he says, I will give you a purpose and help you understand why you're here and how you can get through it in my own time. But you got to make a choice. You got to make a choice, because here's the thing. Life is going to keep on going. It's going to have its ups and it's going to have its downs. So are you going to thrive, or are you going to survive? You're going to survive on the Holy Ghost, on the Spirit of God who says, look, I have set you free, so be free indeed.